All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Odd Taxi, episode 2.
All right, first episode started off really strong.
Yep, excellent.
We have a lot of characters that were introduced to us primarily in a visual sense with a little bit of their function within the society, you know? Yeah, but we don't really know too many of their names, actually. So we're going to be referring to them as their animal...
For a lot of the time,
and then also their role,
the alpaca nurse, the raccoon policeman,
exactly. So, okay, but Odokawa, taxi driver.
Yep.
Makes sense, odd taxi, right?
Definitely.
But, shit, there's some weird potential stuff going on with not just him, but everyone he interacts with.
Right, and then, the whole thing that, he was with the person that died, and there was the whole thing of the memory or something of the body getting thrown into the river, but then also him talking to somebody at his apartment that might not have been there.
Or if they are there, that's equally as potentially disturbing.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so
okay, there's that. Then we had, at the end of the episode, an exchange of the dashcam footage that the cop got.
Right.
Because, he demanded it, essentially.
Yeah.
So he didn't need it for some kind of investigation.
Right, no, definitely not. Because, it was off the books. It's the, a criminal might shoot you in the face with a gun, if you say no, right? So, or if you go to the cops about this. So, okay, he gets the stuff, he trades it to the person, he gets something that at first I thought was money.
But it's just a
the envelope is like,
envelope.
It's way too thin to actually have, fat stacks of cash in there. So, okay.
So, is it information?
Right,
Is it something that maybe he had on the cop as blackmail and he's turning it in or something?
Sure. Or maybe the cop is just cheap with regards to how much money he needs. It's maybe $500 bills or something.
Yeah, but that guy who we believe is named Dobu, based on the way other characters were talking about them, was also stalking the taxi, or specifically Odokawa. So it might be something where they're searching for info on who, Odokawa drove, potentially even the missing girl, Nerima. So,
right, because, and what his connection is then to her, because, and the whole thing that happened, because we don't actually know what happened. They're even the main character knows things that we don't know. Yeah. So,
So, y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone, now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below, then come back here for the discussion. Okay, cool episode. This was a very funny episode. And also, this feels very much like an episode 2, where we've been given the introduction to the world. But before we advance the plot too much, we need to establish even more a larger base of characters.
Right, and given that the cast is so large, then you want to have the interactions be meaningful, and that might result in, hey, when these characters are talking, we're gonna have them be doing bullet fast, witty repartee. And
it felt like every interaction was a Rakugo exchange.
Right.
It was so funny.
Or like they were practicing to be their own, radio show host performers.
Everything was a bit.
Right, I almost wondered if it was going to become a meta point in the story of what was going on somehow, because it was people do not talk that way.
It's entertaining for us, but I think the thing that they're getting at almost a little bit here is that when people try to connect or interact, there's this barrier that keeps people from genuinely interacting, because everything is trying to be everyone is trying to be the best version of themselves. They're trying to,
verbal sparring.
Yeah, exactly. They're trying to put up something which is naturally somewhat not antagonistic, but somewhat,
it's defensive for themselves, right? Because unless they're with someone that they really genuinely feel comfortable around, then there's going to be some defenses and some layers up. Right. And in this case, they're just really good at doing that. So it's very fast, it's very choppy, and
yet that's the fun thing, is that it seems like in the taxi, that's the one place in this story where everyone's defenses go down a little bit.
Because he does not exist.
On some level, they don't really see him as a person. And there's something really unique about that I'm sure they'll get into more and more, because Odokawa, he's got all kinds of of stuff going on.
Yep.
But okay, we also get basically reaffirmed depth on characters that we didn't know would be like physically in the story.
Sure.
The Homo sapiens, the radio talk show host.
Yep.
They were wonderful.
Yeah, that was great. Like,
yeah.
like both on the radio and off the radio. Actually, they were better off the radio.
Right. And then
okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And then Mystery Kiss, the idol group that we heard about on the radio, I'm pretty sure in the first episode.
And we've seen them in the OP and stuff. And
yeah, we've now met them. We've now met one of their first super fans. We've now had this going back to characters that we've already had shown in the first episode. So like, the alpaca.
Yeah, I think Miho.
Miho, yep. And then we also have characters like the Blue Hippo guy who's still trying to go viral on Twitter. So now he's doing musical covers, which I'm like, hey buddy, Twitter actually won't get you far because their video players shit. But on YouTube has you could do some stuff there.
And if he's leaning into because I don't know if he's actually good at singing, and it didn't seem like he was necessarily fantastic, right? But at the very least that he was putting a lot of heart into it.
Yes.
And that was being able to be communicated, which is funny that then you have this person who's doing pretty well on YouTube that, as far as we know, has no musical background, and then meanwhile you have the idol group who's struggling.
Yeah.
When it's this whole big production.
Right.
So,
there's all kinds of really fun commentary that fits our modern world. Like, I feel like there are times, and I'm not trying to take ownership in some way like the superfan was, but I feel like shows like this were made for people like me. Like, as an online content creator, you feel the discussion, like you feel the emotion in all the people involved in this episode, especially, right? Like in the idol girl, the Kaido, also the two that are masked, where they don't really feel like they can actually gain some kind of success that's meaningful,
notoriety and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And they didn't start out masked.
No,
like that's gotta suck.
Oh yeah, you could get into
holy shit.
Yeah.
Like it's something where I'm the conversation that Homo sapiens had at the beginning of the show, right, on the radio and stuff.
It kind of told us and prepped us for the episode.
Yeah, it kind of prepped us for the episode, which is fun as I love the idea of that happening in a story in general, and the fact that it's happening through characters that we actually get to know in the story as characters that we physically see at the end of the episode. Right.
Yeah, that was perfect.
But also just that kind of conversation. I'm very curious how that I'm trying to put myself in the perspective of the person who is the fan and not the content creator, right?
Right.
And how that kind of conversation then sort of adds entertainment to the episode, right? But then also sets you up for the rest of the episode because the kinds of jokes that they were saying and the things that they were saying and stuff, great commentary. That was delightful to me, but I could totally see that not being quite as fun,
right?
Because
you poked at something that maybe isn't really fun to bring up for fans. And
exactly.
This was something that I found to be almost confirmed by the fact that if I was a person that regularly posted to like LSF, for instance, but instead it's live stream fails.
Oh, gotcha.
Basically, they post clips of people doing things that are idiosyncratic from their typical streams or what have you to show, like, hey, did this person do something stupid? We can highlight it and get a lot of laughs out of it.
Right.
So in this case here, I think they would call this radio show host rants about fan culture, or old boomer radio show host rants about this whole thing. And the funny part about it is not that he's ranting, but that you can tell the other host is uncomfortable about the rant and keeps trying to direct things back to their regularly scheduled programming.
And that rant was probably the reason why they went for, him rather than...
Instead of the thing there. Which means that they were grinding plenty fine up until that point. And they probably both could have been brought on. Theoretically. And yet... because of that, there's a possibility that that's why he didn't get picked. We don't know.
Yep.
We don't know.
Right. And that's one of the things that that's also something that is
exactly.
That is a big source of stress just in my life in general a lot of the times because most of the time when I look at other content creators, they don't they or I'll phrase it as a positive. They put out a lot more refined content than we do. Sure. It's not improvisational, and it's not 12 hours a week or whatever, sure. right? Like, not counting streams.
I mean,
right?
The work probably is a lot more.
The work, that doesn't mean it's less work, right? But as far as what gets, put out there and stuff. Mm-hmm. So it's like, there can be the stress that I feel sometimes of like, oh God, do I need to make sure that like I'm always on point so that way I don't like have some the fans whatever,
or you miss the golden egg because you were on a bad day that one time
exactly. Right because across the thousands of hours or whatever of stuff that we have out there, right, there are gonna be some there's gonna be some
bad eggs
changes in the quality.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You're not gonna see this consistency throughout. I think that's partially the other form of the discussion that was had through the idol group. Was that the super fan, he comes in and goes, I have noticed the slightest bit of out of syncness with Mitsuya. She's not dancing as well as she usually did. Is she
tired? Is she
now,
okay?
Hear the empathy in this, like, out of like context. He's just questioning, like, hey, is she doing okay? Like, I don't assume anything like, really toxic immediately.
Right. Once we get more from him, then we're like, okay, I see.
Yeah, we see the pattern here. He wants to have Nikaido all to himself.
Oh yeah, no, there were so many things that he was saying, and I loved how they used his own mouth to basically give the commentary to show how completely oblivious fans can get when they get into fandoms and fan culture, right? Yeah. Because when you're in a fandom, you can have a fandom, right? and
you should be a talk show host.
You can totally not realize. Well, I mean, we kind of are in a way, right? Like, but
continue.
Yeah, but he doesn't even realize what he's saying,
not
right?
Really, no.
Like if he were to just like have some like he listened to someone else say that to be like, God damn, right?
I mean, maybe he would be impressed. I don't know.
Sure,
like,
who knows?
There's this other aspect of where, he's buying the lottery tickets to make potentially more money on, 1,000,000 to 1 odds, which is,
right.
Maybe it's 150,000 to 1. But the point is that you're not going to win the lottery, dude.
Right.
Even if, because this is a show where
he manages to win the lottery.
Everything is slightly,
We tell the story
crazy.
of that time he bought a lottery ticket, not just because it was showing to Otokawa that he was stiffing him, but it's actually because he wins, That would be a crazy turn in the story, and that might be a fun way for this character to explore what actually happens when he gets what he thinks he wants, because it's not actually what he'll end up wanting. And the thing is that usually when you have situations like that with, say, maybe much more popular idol groups or something like that, where you have many fans like this, the majority of them, one, wouldn't win the lottery, but two, wouldn't win the metaphorical lottery that they're hoping for, right? And then that just happens, and it buoys up the industry.
And then would you really buy like 100,000 CDs or something if you won the lottery?
Right.
Or would you be like, hey, like,
I won the lottery.
Right.
Now I can put on my dating app as as having a lot of money, right? And the fact that, oh man, like there were so many interconnected things from this episode, and I feel like they were able to do that in a lot of ways. One, just because the writing's really good, but also because the dialogue was kept really snappy. So we could have these character interactions that are really good, really funny.
So funny.
And yet we can have all of this structure to what's going on, where it's like all of a sudden you have the friend, right, that has the dating app, and then he's like, oh, I matched with somebody who's 18, and he's like, oh, cool. But then it's like, oh yeah, no, that's the girl in the idol group that has super low self-esteem.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah,
and
that's Shiho.
Right.
Or on the dating app, she's Shiho. And Ichimura in the...
which one's real? Who knows? Both might be fake.
Yeah, true.
Probably not a bad idea for the sake of personal security. But, things like that. And then you have the talk show hosts that end up finding the videos from the hippo guy. He did good then. He did good, and as far as we know, he started doing that in this episode.
Yeah.
So he's doing great.
I mean, that's the power of social media. The idea that like you could put something out, and within an hour, a million people have been given an impression by it.
Right.
Like that's one of the things that blows my mind still about YouTube is that we'll get like millions of impressions off of a single video, but as to the amount of people that will actually like click on it. it goes down a dramatic amount. Right. And then of those people that click on it, only a even lower percentage of those people stay in the first 10 seconds.
Sure.
Like after the first 10 seconds. Like that's the funneling of how this whole thing works.
Right. And our business is supplied by the people who then become patrons, which is an even smaller percentage of the people then who watch the, a lot of the video and regularly, and then, so it's crazy how all that can work.
Yeah.
And just as a little aside,
yeah.
for any people that want to get themselves out there, doing what the Hippo did there with the music is a fantastic way of doing things. Not just because it's music cover specifically,
not that,
but because you're taking something that is beloved by the masses and then
adding your personal
spin to that.
Vulnerable, right? Personal,
exactly, right? People will already be searching for this thing, right? In a lot of ways, the idol group probably has it a bit tough because they need to make their own IP. That is ridiculously difficult.
Everyone's searching for idol groups, but there's so many other ones that are
right,
so popular.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if you're just gonna say, I'm going to sing a song that is made by, say, a very popular idol group or something like that, right? Then people might be like, oh yeah, I love that song. Oh hey, look at this guy, who also seems to love that song, right?
Yeah.
Businesses will spend ridiculous amounts of money to keep alive dead IPs just because it is that difficult to start one. So, if you can just sort of attach yourself to one,
Yeah, and is that something that is something that is from the auteur standpoint, is that something that makes you excited about the future of humanity in a creative manner? I would say not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
No. There's so many people out there that have basically just the ability to kind of add what we're doing here. It's like commentary.
Sure.
And are we really adding something to them? I don't know. I would hope on some small level, probably.
Right, helping to progress the communal conversation around something.
Yeah. Or the adoption of the hobby that you're passionately conversating or commentating about. And thus more people maybe watch anime because we talk about anime. So I really like the way this episode brought up the idea of social media and content creators hitting brick walls or hitting moments in their career where they're just I don't know what I'm doing.
Yep.
And then the answer, if you will, that's presented to them is something that they probably would just no, I don't want to do that. No.
Yep.
But it's also the kind of thing that's just no, that's just the way things are going, man. I feel for these guys because one of them is at least originally was a Rakugo guy. He might still be. But then
do you know if that was the same Twitter account?
No. I'm not. No. The guy who made the big
tweet with 140,000 retweets. Whatever.
Haven't met him yet.
Okay.
No. Yeah. I'm talking about how the boar guy was getting compliments from the horse guy, saying hey, your Rakugo's pretty good. Basically saying that he does Rakugo, or he did Rakugo at some point. He's also on radio. So both of those forms of media are old.
They are to the point of being. Well, I don't know about Rakugo. The young people
are not searching for that, I would say,
probably not
anymore. And those are the people on social media making people rich and famous, basically, with their clicks and likes and fan stuff. So the super fan here, who should not be spending that much money on this stuff there, unless he's actually got his finances in fine, and it's that he's lying and stiffing taxi drivers and stuff.
I mean, hey, maybe this will be just an expensive lesson that he'll learn, and
maybe
who knows?
We'll see.
But
okay. All that to say, I really love how we're building up this interconnected world. Yeah, there's set up stuff for future things. Miho apparently likes Odokawa. That's just a casual thing. I'm not sure she actually does necessarily.
Right.
Because of the connection to the drugs that she is hawking off and stealing from the supplies of Goriki, then who might be then connected to Dobu, who is dealing with the cop who is corrupt, who also then just got into the cab with Odokawa with a gun, and now we're going to find out why he was so interested in the dashcam footage, potentially Nerima, and why he is someone that the people at the restaurant even know.
Right, like this,
like there's all kinds of shit going on here.
Yeah, like this episode felt like a side story in the best possible way because, like, with the mysteries that have been set up with this show, right?
Yeah,
this episode barely touched on them, right? Like it really did. It's
still setting up.
It's still setting up characters and just how they interact and things like that.
Really
and
good
yet,
stuff.
But it's something that makes me care way more about the mystery, right? Because from the first episode, it's like, okay, cool world, all this stuff, fun, quirky characters, but a lot of the interest in the mystery is just because it's a cool mystery, right? I want to understand it for the sake of it being a mystery, right?
Yeah.
But now it's like, okay, what is exactly the situation with all these different characters? What is the situation with Miho? Why is she wanting to get close to Otokawa? Does she actually just like him? Like, what's the situation there? Like, the fact that we got this story about her so quickly and so succinctly of, oh yeah, I didn't, my biggest regret was taking out a student loan instead of relying on my parents. Oh, you're still paying it off? No, it's paid off. It's like, okay, so she started dealing drugs as a way to pay off her student loans. It worked, but she's still doing it.
Probably because she's forced to.
Sure, either forced to, or it's just old habits die hard, right?
Who
knows, right? And so it's all these little bits of flavor for the characters that makes them super endearing. I love them, whether it's endearing like in like a I like this character, or like a, oh man, this character has some issues and I want to see how they play out.
Yeah.
But now I got a gun.
Yeah. I really like though how there are a couple things that seem like, oh, this is a point where you're supposed to pay attention.
Sure.
When they went into the locker room and all the numbers were so like bold and big, not like how lockers usually are. They're much smaller than that usually. Yeah. I was like, oh, we're supposed to notice that the numbers are big. I see you, show.
Right.
And so when they were brought up as the lotto numbers, I'm like, yeah, of course they were. But then there's other things where it's like, oh, this thing in the background, there's text that gets subtitled, and I'm like, oh shit, like the books. This guy has been like actually reading and studying on how to go viral. I'm impressed. Like most people
doing other stuff too. Like it wasn't just studying like viral posts and things. Like I can't.
Actually, I want to bring that part back up because there were a couple things that were on the shelf. Yeah, that were like, wait, hold on.
Like way to go, dude. Because that's not necessarily going to be related, but it's probably helpful stuff to know.
Yeah, how to fill out a job application, finding a job, 500 tips for finding a job, how to write a social media post. So see, there was a point where he stopped looking for a job. Make your dreams come true with social media, the internet, rules for achieving popularity, how to get your posts shared on social media, collection of funny tweets, the social network, how to get likes and go viral on social media.
And the thing is, like, while I would say his thing is another instance of like trying to, he's been kind of looking for that lottery ticket, right? And with his mentality and everything.
Which is funny because he's not the one actually looking for lottery tickets.
Right.
But so you're right. Yeah.
But because there's the whole thing of like the internet is very much a thing that is a lot of luck, right?
A lot of luck. And I love that that's what Otokawa was like, hey, you want to get successful? Well, maybe get lucky.
Right. But the thing is that there's also the idea of fortune favors the prepared, right? And if he knows, if he's doing all this research and actually like treating it like a job of like, how, grinding out figuring out a way to, okay, what works, what doesn't, right?
I'm trying to build a brand.
Exactly. Then, hey, he ends up eventually getting lucky and realizes that, hey, this thing of doing video song covers and stuff, that's actually working out pretty well. Then that's something where now he can just shift focus onto that and, do it like anything else.
But I love that while this is all happening here, we are reading this, our eyes drift to this. We miss the other thing that's staring us right in the face, which is an idol cat girl little model thing there.
Yep.
That could very well be like another idol group that's being set up that's like one of the super popular ones, or it's just like merch of maybe Nikaido.
Well, it has yellow hair, so I'm guessing it's probably something different.
Okay, yeah, you're probably right, yeah.
But yeah, like...
But I just love how much detail they cram in to every frame of this episode. There's just like so many little things going on here.
One of the things that like you compared this to Vicano outside of recording at one point, and I feel like that really does work because I've seen ensemble casts where they're all kind of one big cast as a part of one grand story, right?
Yeah.
And while that still is probably kind of what's the case here because you have the mystery and people are going to be connected to it in different ways and things like that, it really gives me the sense that each of them has their own story that they're on, right?
Yeah.
And that somehow in this one core show, we are going to tell 8 different stories all at the same time.
But they're all somehow connected.
Yeah. That is fascinating to me.
That is so
Even if the stories on an individual level aren't anything complex, right? If they're really simple, and maybe if you took all their little spliced bits and put them together, it'd be like a 10-minute story. That's totally fine. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Love the show.
Yeah, I love the show. Really cool stuff. And now, okay, Otokawa, you got a guy in your cab with a gun. So this rules out the idea that they are potentially friends or have any kind of there's a possibility that they know each other.
Right. Yeah. There's a decent possibility of that, and it's just because
Otokawa's friends did speak of this guy.
Right.
So there's a very real possibility that Otokawa knows him. But then why would he pull out a gun immediately without any words beforehand?
So the this is the first thing that comes to mind for me, is that there were accomplices and Otokawa fucked something up.
Oh,
right?
Shit.
Okay. Like
so he knows that they know each other, and the reason why he pulled out the gun is he's like, no, don't you dare try to run because you know who I am.
Yeah, exactly. You know I'm here, right? Maybe they did something together or something like that, and Otokawa did screwed up the job or something like that.
Something went sideways.
Or with the kidnapping or something, he tried to, shelter her at his house or something like that, or who knows, right? Something happened, and then he's suddenly showing up like, all right, we need to talk, right? And maybe that's the reason why the dash cam footage was so important that they get, because they don't want anyone to be aware that the two of them maybe are connected, right? That they had some dealings or something like that, or who knows, right?
Shit, okay.
Because there's the stereotypical reasons why I would think of someone like getting into a car and pointing a gun at somebody, right? But I feel like the fact that we don't know the context or the reason for it means that it could be something very different than what we expect.
Yeah, I think that the setup is for them to have a long conversation in the cab.
Right.
That he won't, he won't stop driving until the conversation is finished and he stopped pointing the gun at him.
Right. And
so that's guaranteed, which means that he needs to know something from Otokawa that he couldn't get unless he was doing these 2 other things.
Yeah. One of the other things that we can use potentially here is that since this show is a mystery, odds are it's not going to be about whether or not someone is capable of surviving. Yeah. It's about whether it fits into the motivations, the web of motivations for all the characters involved, right? So I get the feeling he actually doesn't want to kill Otokawa here, right? Because otherwise that makes things a lot simpler and maybe less interesting, right? Yeah. You could totally still do that, but this early in the show, right, having the main character be potentially killed by somebody, it's like, it's probably not going to happen.
Which means he probably doesn't actually have the desire to hurt him. It's just
it's just I mean business.
Seriously.
Yeah, and don't fuck with me, right?
Right.
And if that's the case, then I am even more interested to know what exactly he's here for.
Right, because we know that the main character knows things that we don't know.
Right.
And thus, this is the impetus in the story for the main character to tell us the things that he knows that we don't know.
Right.
Amazing writing.
Let's go.
This is so good. So y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get an early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us in the community there about this show, about anime in general, and also be sure to check out our Twitch channel.
We stream every weekday. The info's in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.